The JSE faces muted Asian markets on Friday as investors a mild Fed outlook. Markets continue to match the data releases closely as they try to gauge whether or not the worst of aggressive monetary policy tightening is over. Matete Thulare, head of foreign exchange execution at Round Merchant Bank, joins us now to dissect the latest market news. Matete, good to speak to you as always on this Friday morning. The rand has continued on its slide amid a strengthening dollar. Talk us through those developments.
Good morning, Hugo. I suppose you're very much right. I mean, the dollar has climbed to a 3-week high, especially after the minutes that were released from the Federal Reserve after the July meeting, obviously pointing out to higher U.S. interest rates that are going to stay higher for longer in an effort to bring down inflation. Now, the rand has obviously slumped more than 3% this week. I mean, at the beginning of the week, we started around the 16.24 levels. At this point in time this morning, we're already around the 16.93 levels. So obviously edging closer towards 17 again. I mean, if you remember the highs for 2022 at 17.17 against the dollar. Also, we've seen the likes of the sterling dropping below the 120 level to also 3 weeks lows. I mean, that's obviously thanks to a really strong dollar. And obviously the UK is also suffering from red hot inflation figures that were released earlier this week, which is obviously reinforcing fears that potentially the UK growth outlook won't be as great as expected. So, you know, the Fed officials really saw little evidence late last month about the US inflation pressures easing. That was, you know, from the minutes that were released on Wednesday evening. And obviously, you know, they're really flagging down an eventual slowdown in the pace of US hikes, but are obviously not switching to any cuts in 2023 as we'd expected. Already the markets are guiding for about a 40% chance of a third consecutive 75 basis point increase in interest rates in September from the Fed. And obviously this is expecting to hit, peak of around 3.7% in the repo rate in the US by March next year. So in some ways, the dollar bulls are back in the market. And obviously I think the Fed minutes have given us some reasons for us to believe that the stronger dollar will be here to last for longer. And unfortunately, the rand is obviously, weakening on the back of that.
Now, Blue Label Telecoms have published its trading statement for the year ended May 31st, 2022. Help us make sense of those numbers.
So if you remember, Blue Label Telecoms, which is obviously at this point in time finalizing a recapitalization of Cell C, says it expects growth in earnings to at least increase by about 20%. So if you remember, Blue Label Telecoms, they specialize in the sales of prepaid airtime, electricity, and also ticketing. So, they're expecting to report core headline earnings of around close to about R1 billion for this year, which is obviously indicative of a robust trading performance by the group during the year. So if you just think about it over the past 12 months, the share price has increased by about 24%. But also, they're expected to conclude a more than 3-year long recapitalization of Cell C. I mean, if you think about the whole Cell C group, that's valued at about 6.6 billion rand. They've been working to firm up the balance sheet of South Africa's fourth largest cellular network provider, which obviously has struggled to make profit since it opened for business in 2001. And it is obviously heavily debt burdened with obviously about 8.7 billion worth of, debt there. So Blue Label, it is Cell C's largest shareholder, holding about 45% stake, but it has said that, they're expecting to at least make sure that, combined with how they're recapitalizing Cell C and obviously the robust trading performance there, at least that will put them in good stead over the next few years.
Now, this is as interesting as it is worrisome. Emirates is set to suspend flights to Nigeria from September. It looks like our aviation sector is not the only one under pressure of late.
That's very true. I mean, obviously, Emirates announcing yesterday that it has put a hold on flight operations in and out of Nigeria due to Nigeria's inability to repatriate funds from, to Emirates. I mean, the airline said there's been no progress in reaching, a solution with the Nigerian authorities, which is very interesting because the Nigerian Aviation Ministry says it is working hard to release the trapped funds that are due to Emirates. I think the decision comes after Emirates last month obviously announcing that it would reduce the amount of flights to the commercial capital Lagos. And obviously, on the back of this, it says that they can't access funds amounting to about $85 million that is withheld in Nigeria. So the stuck funds have been rising by about over $10 million every month. The aviation ministry out in Nigeria said that the trapped funds will be released, as it was not the first time that Nigeria was holding on to a large amount of revenue belonging to foreign air carriers. I mean, already in June, we'd seen the International Air Transport Association in Nigeria saying they're holding about $450 million that is belonging to foreign carriers in terms of revenue. So it is going to be quite an interesting developing story to see how Emirates, navigates this whole thing.
And Matete, finally, Apple has disclosed serious security vulnerabilities for iPhones, iPads, and Macs. What's happening there?
Look, I mean, that's a very interesting story. And I mean, it's not the first time that we've been seeing this, but obviously Apple is warning of a flaw that is allowing hackers to seize control of iPhones, iPads, as you're saying. And obviously they're urging their users to install emergency software updates. I mean, they've already released 2 security reports on Wednesday. Although they didn't receive, wide attention outside of a lot of tech publications, the explanation of this hack means that a hacker could get full admin access to your device that would obviously allow the intruders to impersonate the device owner and obviously subsequently run any software in their name. So, Apple didn't say how these reports or where or by whom, this was discovered. All in all cases, it has said it is an anonymous researcher. So it is obviously going to be interesting, especially given that next month they're already releasing, the Apple iPhone 14.
Matete Thulare, as always, we thank you for your time on this Friday morning with the market update.